absolutely. All right, we're going to get started, and I have a icebreaker for us to start in the chat, and then we can continue conversation. But I'm asking people in the chat to write one thing you're good at and one thing you'd like to learn. So what's something you think you're good at, and what's something you would like to learn? Chat away. No, like it does, and it can be anything. It doesn't have to be library stuff. It can be, I'm really good at making cupcakes, good at sailing. Yeah.
Well, I can't find my chat, so maybe it's down there.
Yeah, it's down at the bottom.
Okay.
Did you find it?
Well, on the Zoom assistant. I'll figure it out before we're done, probably.
So if you go up in your meeting, yeah, did you find it?
Well, I made you small, now I made you big. So that was a start. Under more? No.
Well, it could be depending on the size of your window, but it should be in that same line, like it's on the bottom of your
used chat before. It's just like I've never. All of a sudden, I can't find it, and oh, now I lost you completely. Oh, there you are. Okay, sorry. I'm gonna just quit talking.
Okay, so let's see. We've got craft projects and sailing, turning bowls on a lathe. That's awesome, Carol. Good at singing, Austin.
Nice.
ASL interpreter, yeah. Duct tape wallets, craft, learn to play the ukulele. Who are we missing? Wow, Allison, change a tire, really? Huh. Just feel like you'll be safer and more secure if you know how to change a tire.
It's just one of those, it's always one of those things where you're like, I don't know how to change a tire.
I get that. I totally get that.
Do you carry those little cans of things that will blow your tire up if you have a flat?
No.
Okay, you should learn to change your tire.
I should learn to be more prepared.
Maybe that, right, there you go. That's your first step, is to be prepared.
But I do have this piece of paper that has a 1-800 number on it that I call, and then somebody comes and changes the tire for me.
I have AAA, but I used
that's what she's talking about.
I could probably still do it. I haven't done it in like a decade. It's something you have to practice every so often because it doesn't happen very much.
Yeah.
I helped teach my kids. That's how I refreshed my memory, was teaching them how to.
So you just need more kids, Leslie. All right. So, okay.
Grandkids.
So what
I would like grandkids.
Yeah, there you go. You'll be able to teach your grandkids. We've got good at, wait, I'm going up to the top. Sailing, craft projects. I'm just doing the good at the moment. Karaoke, singing, talking, communicating with people, making people feel at ease, knitting, and I think that's it. Did I get everything? All right. And then, did I say karaoke? Did I miss karaoke, Jenny? What else, Carol? Was that the one?
Did you say singing?
Yes, I did say singing.
Sorry.
So, right. And then the things people want to learn are learn to play a guitar, learn to turn bowls on a lathe, ASL interpretation, ukulele, changing a tire, math. That's mine too. I hadn't thought about that, but that would be mine. I'd like to learn math in a different way, I think. Change a tire on different things. Flaky pie crust. And,
yeah, that's the winner.
Yeah, yeah. Flaky pie crust. So if you think about this, and one of the reasons, because I want to get back into talking a little bit more about connecting with community and how you'll connect with community. And so thinking about this, everybody is good at something, at least what, then I asked you for one thing. There's plenty of other things. And then you could teach, do you think you could teach people these things you're good at?
Probably.
You can unmute yourselves, you don't have to be muted. So Leslie, could you,
Yeah,
can you
I've
teach people?
taught some people to
Yep.
knit.
Yep. Pam, I think that's a really interesting one. Good at
Yeah.
making people feel at ease. What do you think? Can you teach people how to feel at ease?
I don't think so, but maybe by example. I suppose there is part of that, because I think when you do programs and people come who don't know each other, or they're feeling shy or not very confident, I think that's a skill that you have to use in making them feel at ease and home and comfortable. And perhaps other people could see how you do it, and then they could copy that, just like good manners, like
Right.
or in having good manners. People teach you good manners.
It's 2020.
And some of these things take practice, right? So you might not be able to know how to put people at ease right away, but if you practice it after Pam teaches you how, you could actually do it maybe. And so is there anything that you can't teach someone else that's on this list?
Oh, no.
No, right? I think they're all teachable in one way or another. And then everything that people want to learn, you can learn from someone. Is there anything on this list that you see you want to learn that you think somebody else in this group could teach you?
I could teach Allison to change a tire.
Oh, yay. And Pam too. Pam
Yeah.
wants to learn how to change bike.
Oh,
Can you do bike
bike-
tires too?
Bicycle tires are harder, actually.
Well, maybe just patch a tire. I suppose with a bicycle tire, you don't have to change the whole thing sometimes. Sometimes apparently you can just patch it. I don't know how to do that either.
What about other things? Do you think you can teach someone something that's on this list? Nope. Oh,
If the math was basic math, you know, math versus algebra and trigonometry, I don't remember that.
I couldn't even
Very
teach
well.
basic math.
Yeah.
you could teach basic math, Allison?
No, I couldn't even teach basic math.
And I never went to calculus level.
Interesting. Because one of the things is, I mean, I want to think about the skills that you bring to the different community partners, but also what they bring and what they might learn. But the other thing that I'm thinking about is learning math could happen through making flaky pie crust, right? Or learning, right? So it's not like things are mutually exclusive. Carol, I don't know this. Is there math in sailing?
Yes, in navigation, yes.
Yeah. So you're right. So you can connect to some of these things through other topics, which I think is one of the things we're trying to do with community partners, is figure out where their synergies are, where we connect. So at the outset, it might look like there are no synergies or connections, but if we start to really think about it and learn about what people are really interested in, oh, guess what? That's what we've been trying to do. Like, you can do the learning. And I've used this a lot with people, like just saying, hey, what's one thing you're really good at? And then talking about that thing. Or what's one thing you'd really like to learn? Because maybe the library could help make connections with other people to help you learn those things. What do you think? And am I
I think it
making
makes sense. Well, because you could teach effective communication by teaching someone how to change a tire. It's like how do you make a peanut butter sandwich?
Exactly. Yeah. I'm looking at the chat. Other thoughts about this? Okay, thanks for being here for 15 minutes, Kelly. Appreciate it. We learned about what you're good at. Other thoughts about that or questions? This is going to lead into some other things, but questions about how you might have conversations with people. Use this as a starting point. Carol, I love what you wrote. I just seen what you wrote in the chat about the duct tape wallets and having conversation. That's awesome. So who's one of your community partners that you've talked to already, that you've either before Future Ready or when Future Ready started or since Future Ready started? Just throw out some of those, or since we've been in the pandemic, I should say. Who's one community partner?
So I have a community partner, some of you know, it's a youth group workshop, and it's across the town square from the library. And so, yeah, we've definitely talked to each other, you know, talked about the kids. Occasionally we get to wave at a kid, you know, shared resources, things like face masks, you know, just
cool,
getting through. And, you know, I've talked to some other more extended partners through Zoom meetings and, or yeah, mainly Zoom.
So Leslie, name one. I'm going to put them in the chat. What's name the one you were talking about that's across the square? What's their name?
Pittsfield Youth Workshop.
Field Youth Workshop?
Yeah, Pittsfield is my town. So
Pittsfield, right? All I heard was field. I didn't hear the pit.
Yeah.
Okay, cool. Pittsfield Youth Workshop. Who's somebody else? The people I've worked with.
Our local 4-H group.
All right, so I'm just putting these in the chat. 4-H. Who else?
I've been working with my local food bank.
Good.
I've been working with this group called Family Connection, which is a group that tries to bring service providers together to help families succeed.
Cool. More? Did I miss anyone? Okay. So, all right. So if you think about these different places you're working with, and because we've been talking a lot about, and Leslie, it seems like you've been able to keep things up, but we've been talking a lot about how do you keep these connections going. And now that you're back, it's like rethinking what those connections might be like. So thinking about, I promise there's a method to my madness, what we just talked about connecting to people through what they're good at or what they want to learn. What might you ask or say to one of these groups to find out more about how they see themselves in terms of what their organization is good at? Does that question make sense? Like, what would you ask them to find out what they think they're good at?
well, I think the way you phrase the question is good.
Right. Keep going.
Because, but I could ask them as people who work at this, but more as an organization. And yeah, you know, we have had some conversations, and I imagine you guys are doing this too, you know, what's the essential function of various social services and libraries, and what are we going to build on in the pandemic, and making choices, strategic choices.
Yeah.
So what you're good at is a great place to start.
Yeah.
And then
I might ask something along the lines of what work are you most proud of that you've done recently.
Oh, yeah.
That you
Yeah.
really take pride in, because that might not
Yeah.
always match exactly with like their mission statement maybe, but they might
Right.
feel really
Yeah.
drawn to specific work.
Mhm.
Yeah. That's a great one.
I was
Right.
thinking
Other
similar to Austin, you know, what is their favorite service that they provide?
Hmm.
Right.
You know, and again, it might not be specifically at what they're good at, but it might tell you about that specific service provider,
Right.
what they're passionate about.
Other thoughts about that? So, right. So if you start to, because we've been having these conversations about how do we keep this going in this pandemic world. And that's the thing that I think maybe we need to pivot a little bit. And I'd love to hear more about this. And Leslie, you just said it, is now that we're in a different mode, so to speak, or a different way of thinking about things, or a crisis, critical decision makings is the phrase I've been using a lot lately, is what are you focusing on? Where do you think your strength is in this work we're going to do now with all these changes we might have to make? And then how can we help you? That's right. That's what you want to learn. How can we help you to get there? So it's, what's this pivot? Are you saying you need to make a pivot? Are you saying we need to make a pivot based on what our goals and our services are that we're really proud of, and the communities we serve? And then how do we help you to get there? What do you think? I mean, because Austin, I mean, you've brought it up a lot, and so have others, but this idea, like, how do we keep these connect? I don't mean that, like, I'm happy you brought it up. So that's not like, oh, Austin. No, so thinking about, like, is the challenge that the connections are hard right now, or is it a challenge that we have to rethink how we're doing our services to youth and families, and particularly middle school youth and college career readiness? I feel like I'm typically in my typical mode throwing out big things, but that's what started to come to me, is it's not so much about keeping those connections or making those connections, but rethinking how we think about this work.
I don't know whether this is like has any
Yeah.
substance in the real world, but it certainly feels to be like a lot of what I'm having to do is start from scratch. Like I think about the partners that I have worked with in the past and the work that we were able to accomplish. Like this isn't teen related, but we do stuff with the senior center, and they're obviously extremely impacted right now. And it just feels like an entirely new relationship. So it does kind of feel like, at least, I mean, that's totally just feeling. The actual conversations I might have with these partners may just be, oh no, just keep going as you're going. But it does feel a lot like it's just gonna have to be a brand new thing, just rebuilding.
I think it's difficult where I live because a lot of the families don't have internet connection. So you know, so many people talk about programs. Oh, you could do, you know, something online. You could show them this. You can show them that. Well, they're not going to be able to connect, and it's kind of unfortunate that the 4-H group that I partnered with, we were just building it up. We were getting new people joining, and we were having some great programs, and we had all these things scheduled, and now it's just pretty much come to a standstill. And the 4-H leader is trying to put things on Facebook to keep kids interested, but like there's no comments or likes or anything. It almost seems like we're just suspended right now and waiting for another day when things open up more.
Pam, can I ask, if they don't have internet connection, do they have, do these folks have phones?
They do have phones, sure.
Okay. I mean, cell phones, smartphones.
Yeah.
I'm just
I
wondering.
think so. Most of them would, I think, or at least someone in the family would have a cell phone.
Okay.
Their personal cell phone.
Yeah.
Our calls are. Okay.
Go ahead. All of you go. Who's
Somebody else already spoken.
Austin? Go ahead.
No, I've already spoken if somebody else was going to go.
Okay.
No? Okay. Um, uh, I don't know about in your communities, but certainly in Georgia, if you've heard anything about Georgia lately, there's sort of this just feeling of like, we just need to get back to normal, just restart. Like we've had this period of not normal, so we're just waiting for the moment. We're trying to force maybe the moment of getting back to just things as they were. And so I foresee a little bit of a challenge of in rekindling these relationships with these partners, them kind of being resistant to a change, not necessarily just to virtual services, but to change in the relationship from what we had been doing prior to all this and what we'll need to do in order to stay safe in the future. That's also just in my head.
And
I can no, go Jenny.
Well, this is a little bit transitioning the topic, but I'm thinking about like what some of those hurdles are. I don't know if the rest of you are facing like staff shortages. Like at my library, we have a ton of people who are furloughed. And so whereas I usually just do teen services, now I'm doing everything because I'm one of the 5 people who's still working at the library, and our library building is closed still. So we're trying to figure out what are the essential things to offer. And so I think in my instance, I'm a little more strapped for time than I was before to reach out to people and check in on them, as I'm being roped into helping figure out how we're going to do curbside holds and how we're going to pivot many things online. And so I don't want to lose those relationships that I had and was building, but it's almost a new reality for just what I can fit on my own plate right now. So I think that's hard.
Allison, what were you gonna say?
I don't know. I have so much to say. I mean, I can honestly relate to what Pam, Jenny, and Austin have said as far as, you know, lacking staff, being, you know, reduced, and just feeling like a standstill simply because Texas is playing the everything's fine game. So it's very much people coming in and partners coming in and saying, let's do this, let's do this, let's do this. But then from the city's perspective, we have to be careful what we do. And you know, I think similar to Austin is people keep wanting to go back to normal. And it's so hard to say like, okay, let's take a break. I mean, we have parents that are like, why are there no summer reading programs? Like, why aren't you having any performers? When are the performers coming? I mean, our city pool's open, splash pads open. I mean, everyone wants everything to be completely normal. And the fact that something's not normal spirals to, you know, how do we safely offer story time? How do we safely offer any, you know? So I think that it's an interesting perspective because I think that libraries are experiencing so much difference right now. Each library, and we aren't used to not all being similar into the services that we offer, and this is the first time where I'm doing something so left field and somebody else is doing something. So I feel like it can be isolating in the sense of not knowing.
Well, and what I see mostly coming out are like things about how to sanitize materials, how to do social distancing, but not like what we're talking about. And I think that's also what makes it hard. Absolutely. Is because we can't. So I can't remember who was saying it. Might have been, oh, well, it was Pam when you were talking about no internet access. In my head, this is the time then to talk with people about what do we do well, what can we do in this environment well, and how do we do it? So I think we've talked, Carol and Alice and I, we've had these conversations about community engagement for 4 or 5 years now, and we've had very specific conversations, and I finally have figured out that those conversations aren't the conversations we need anymore. So Austin, all of your challenges are absolutely, you know, like, yes. So what are those conversations? And I think it's about who we are, what we do well, and what we can do. So if people don't have access, that sucks. That really is terrible. But we can't just keep saying, people, and Pam, I'm not saying you said this, we have to say, all right, how do we do something? And how do we do it as a community? Because Jenny, everybody, not everybody, but the staff capacity thing is huge, and it's not just you. So being siloed, and like, how, that's what I'm trying to like get across and think about is, okay, how do we do what we were doing by looking at the strengths that we all have and how we can help each other with the strengths that we don't have? Because I think we can do it. I think it's a really important time for that. So if you were to say to 4-H, well, what are your strengths that you have and that you could actually continue to keep doing now, might be a little bit different. And then same, you know, and then how do we build from that? And I feel like I'm on my soapbox and not making sense. So
No, actually, I mean, as you're talking, maybe I have the wrong idea, but just when you're saying that, it's like, you know what, everyone has mail. So, and the library has money now that's not being spent on summer reading program. So maybe get with the 4-H leader and say, you know, what could we put together that we could mail to them at their house that they would get in the mail, you know, a project or something.
Yep. And then thinking about how you connect that to like this project is, what are things that might help young people to think about what they like to do? Like, what are different activities you might be able to mail?
Yeah.
And then how might you get feedback on that, right? You could give them a postage stamp envelope. They could mail back to you with photos they took or whatever, right? That, or whatever the artifacts they created.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was actually thinking about, in terms of 4-H, it seems like there would be an awfully, a great opportunity for those folks who could, to get the people who are doing things in 4-H, because those things are so hands-on, to start creating some videos. And, you know, again, they're going to have some kind of an equipment. And so if they don't have anything, I'm not sure how that would go about, they could go about it. But I know when at the Teen Center in Seattle, one of the things we had teens do was create a bunch of videos, which they loved, of course, you know, but now's a great time to be teaching things. You know, everybody's learning things, you know, through YouTube and, you know, just sharing a lot of things. So it seems like if the library could be a part of encouraging that, or asking people, you know, show us, you know, film you know, 60 seconds of what your day looks like, you know, or something that you could be the aggregate of all those things and give people, you know, some kind of a way to not only, you know, to showcase them, but to bring them in. Because you know, I wonder, I think a lot about those kids who are stuck at home. They, you know, school was important to them, and now they don't have school, and home is not exactly a welcoming place. So if there's something that we could reach out to those folks, that seems like it would be a really, really important connection. Has any of you people, any of the, you know, at your libraries, have you encouraged your teens to create any kind of video series at all? Book talking, book talking was always kind of a big thing, but I think that kind of just appeals to the people who are just good readers. But if there's some other way to get people engaged in showing other people, like, I think maybe we talked about this. My cousin in Tennessee, he filmed his grandfather, who's related to me, and posted him telling jokes, and he posted it on TikTok, and it's gotten something like 500,000 views.
Hmm.
It's amazing. But you know, and the thing of this video is my cousin. You may think I have a Southern accent, but my cousin has a really, 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 really interesting, strong Southern accent. And so when he's telling these jokes, I mean, I have to feel like that it's partially his accent that is attracting people. But, you know, over 500,000 views, you know, in less than a month. So, I don't know.
Start a TikTok challenge.
You are all about TikTok. I feel like every time we have one of these, like TikTok comes up and Allison is like, thing to say.
I have not made a TikTok. I am just a fly on the wall to the most interesting ridiculousness ever.
But, you know, I think that so many organizations are struggling with the exact same things we are. And that's the conversation to have within the context of youth and families, perhaps, right? And I don't hear people talking about connected learning in the same way, or college career I mean, we hear about social emotional development. That is huge, and the mental health of young people is something I think we're really going to need to focus on. And so if that's something that can bring you together with different organizations, then I just keep thinking this is the way to connect. It's not about our specific project, but it's about where we are today and how can we build whatever. Jenny, were you going to say something before and I started talking?
Well, I think as Carol was kind of talking about if we've had anybody do videos, that inspired me to think of, and I posed this to a teen not too long ago, but I wanted to get some teens to make little videos teaching something that they like to do. And I have one teen that is obsessed with Frankenstein, and she like does all this research on her own about like the author and the original book. So I asked her if she would like to do just a quick little like video giving an intro to what like the story of Frankenstein. And her response to me was, if you really want me to, I will. And so it was something that I knew she loved, and she wants to talk to me about it all the time. But then she didn't seem to want to put that actually out there. So I really liked that idea, and but she didn't want to go there. So, but I still think it'd be a fun thing to try if you had teens who wanted to teach something, and you could give them volunteer hours, or
maybe take some of that money from summer reading program if you have any money left over. And I realize I'm kind of joking there, but you know, and offer a prize, you know, for folks, you know, something that puts you guys in kind of in the middle of it, where you're encouraging people to do these things. But the kids that did ours, some of the kids who are in this teen group of ours, they love doing those videos more than anything. You know, that was the thing that, of course, they did them together, which was a kind of a different thing. But
yeah. Well, and Jenny, thinking about that makes me think, you know, it's your idea, and your idea as opposed to hers. So in that connected learning framework, just thinking about if she had said, oh, I would love to do this, right? There's that tension we have. It's like, oh, you're really good at this. It would be fun. She's like, nah, I don't really want to do that. That's your adult idea. Right? It's funny about that. I'm remembering too, like all the times I've done that to kids of all ages. It's like, oh, you really like that. Let's do this. Like, nah, not so much.
And maybe she'd like to be the director of a video more than, you know, be in it personally, you know. So there's that, you know, to say, wouldn't this be great if you could get someone to act this out, and it wouldn't have to be her. That's
very true. That's good.
So do people think, and hi, Stacy, glad you could make it. We're sort of continuing to talk about making connections with community. So do you think, like, if I were to charge you all with, in the next 2 weeks, where you could tell me longer, making a connection with one of the people you've worked with already, or that you think, you know, in this time, this is an organization we should be partnering with. When we were talking to I don't think I've seen you since I was talking to the Pennsylvania group last week, and we were talking about the protest tests and how activism and civic engagement and teenagers, there's a huge intersection there, right, with connected learning. And so we were talking about that, and we were talking about the different kinds of partners, different partners people might want to work with now. And one woman said, there's an African American history museum in my town, and I have never ever talked to them before, but we have protests here. Harriet Tubman was one of the founding members of that organization, and she said, I'm going to talk to them because I want to think about how we can take what's happening in our country today and create something within 14s. So can you think of, so if I were to say, charge you with, have a conversation with a community organization that you have or haven't worked with before, but you think might be someone to talk to about where your community is today and what their expertise is and how you can work together for the future. Would that be doable?
The only hesitancy I have is that we're headed to the 4th of July.
Mm-hmm. Oh my gosh, really? Is it that's that soon?
That, at least where I live.
Well, the 4th of July happens for all of us, but go ahead.
Major vacation time, you know, yeah. So, and to do a collaborative reach out for us, let's schedule a pretty serious conversation. I would probably get scheduled in the second half of July.
What do other people think?
Yeah.
Leslie, I hear you. I totally forgot where it's still March to me.
It turns into a ghost town. This is the first half of July is like summer in New Hampshire, and then it starts getting cold.
You know, I'm wondering if, you know, this is going to be a 4th of July unlike any other. In a lot of places, and maybe, you know, I wonder if you could get teens to in some way reach out about how they're spending their 4th of July, because I'm sure some places that are pretending that everything's okay. I'm looking at you, Allison. You know, I mean, maybe they're going to go ahead with all the festivities and things like that.
Oh, yes, we're having parades.
Oh gosh.
New Hampshire's.
Okay. Well, you know, it seems like if you had some teens to connect with or some organizations to connect with, you know, to say, what is this about this 4th of July? This is a really different 4th of July that's coming up, something different from what we've seen. And I don't quite know what that's going to look like. You know, I don't know if there's going to be a lot of protests. I don't know if people are going to be marching or if they're going to be marching in masks or, you know, different places around the country. But it seems like if I were trying to hook on to an event, this 4th of July would be a really interesting one to get teens to connect to. Mm-hmm. And they may be staying home, unlike every other year, or not.
Yeah.
They may be going to you know, to the most crowded bar they can find, or restaurant.
I hear lots of plans for camping, going camping.
Yeah. Good. Linda, I just want to, I'm going back to kind of what you were talking about, and it's interesting because I never really was able to put words to kind of what you have just been working us through, but it truly is a loss of an identity as an organization and as a librarian. And I think that we aren't the only organization that's experiencing, these service providers are probably also experiencing that loss of identity. And I think that that's maybe even a way you could bridge that conversation and what they, you know, what their strengths are and what they do well and how is to, you know, just be, you know, sympathize with each other. But that's how the big picture from what that activity is kind of that I don't know where, you know, I don't feel like I'm doing enough. I don't feel like I'm doing anything. And, you know, that's not where I want to be.
Well, and I just get, I think you're right, Allison, and that identity thing is a great way to articulate it. And I just get this constant sense that we're all feeling, including me, even though I'm not in the kind of position you all are in, we're all feeling like not paralyzed, but we have to make a change, but we don't know how to start. And I think the start is recognizing that there is this identity change, and that, and everybody, like in rural America, I would think, I'm not in rural America, as you know, but I would think like all of the organizations, all of the people are feeling very similar. And why not bond over that and talk about how you can support each other, as opposed to just all, me too, going, oh, this is like, how do we do this? This is so hard, but don't do it by yourself, right? Do it with these other people who, this is a perfect time to sort of say, we can do this together. It's a starting point. I'm just repeating myself.
I saw in the post office, I think it was just yesterday, there was a flyer that the tribal senior empowerment was doing a walk twice a week. They were just starting it. So I walked with them today. I told my boss, like, I really want to partner with them because it's at least somebody in the community doing something. And so today I just walked with her and asked her, you know, if the library could partner. And yeah, she's feeling really frustrated because she can't do her programs in at the tribal, you know, buildings anymore. So she had to find something to do outside. So we're going to try to partner together and do something. And then I went to the school and asked, is anybody doing anything this summer? And no, nobody was doing anything. But then I picked up a flyer that said there was kindergarten registration. So then I put together a little bag with a free book and information about the library, and, you know, asked if the secretary, could you hand this out during kindergarten registration? And she was thrilled. So I guess that's what I'm doing right now. Finding anybody in this ghost town that's doing anything, and then trying to tag along, because the library itself, we seem to have a policy that, no, we're not going to be doing anything, but yet the director says it's okay if we kind of do this, like tag along with somebody. So.
I love that, Pam, and I love that you sort of just saw a flyer and were like, okay, I'm gonna do this thing. That's really great, because that's exactly it. And then we can still build those relationships that we've been talking about, but talk about it a little bit differently. And we can go back to the middle school, college career awareness, but I think at this point, the key is to like build your communities, like you've been saying, Austin, starting again, and where's that place to start from? So if I said, wait, I brought this up. Here's my new plan, Leslie, because July 4th does exist all over the country. Our next Zoom is on what day of the week?
The 16th.
The 16th. So if I were to charge you with talking to someone, like I was saying before, either somebody brand new about, you know, what's going on with them, what's going on with you, expertise, working together, changing the world, or pivoting, or whatever. If I said by the next time we Zoom that you had one of these conversations, doable?
Yeah.
And something that you would, I don't want to, also something that you would think would be useful?
I think, yeah, I could think of a couple of organizations that I could reach out to. I think that'd be possible.
Great. Thanks. Great, thanks, Jenny. All right, so I will put this in the, when I post the recording tomorrow, but, and then I think we're all gonna be able to, going back to the learning, what are you good at? What would you like to learn? I think by doing that, we're all gonna start to learn from each other again about what's happening in communities and what this pivot might be. And Allison, you said, you know, things are you're in left field, somebody else is in right field, but I still think maybe we can find some connections that we can all use in order to move forward. that was my framing for this conversation. Anything new from people? Anything you want to ask each other? Anything you want to tell each other? Something exciting or not exciting? Stacy, were you going to say something?
Well, like this week, I really focused since it was the beginning of our summer reading, and we did something different in Delaware. Sussex County decided that we were all going to do a collaborative online virtual summer reading program. So basically, we all have our different Beanstack accounts for each library, but you have to go through the Sussex County site to find it, and everything is going to be online. So our library was kind of against that because we have a very low income. We're like one of the lowest incomes in that county. So we were like, well, we're still going to do paper logs. And so we came up with the paper logs. We came up with the online, we did our Beanstack. We played along, but we also got a ton of books together that we got from the state, and we put our paper logs in the books. And then I contacted the nutrition director at the elementary school that takes care of handing out the grab and go meals to the kids in the whole the whole school district. So I contacted her, and I had books for all ages from 0 to 18, and anybody that would pick up a meal for their children would get a paper log for themselves as an adult, and then they would get the children's log and the books per child. And it was really well received. Like, I know the nutritional director was really excited to have like somebody to talk to, I guess, and like, just kind of like have us there. And, but you would be surprised at how many people like didn't just like went around us. Like even the people that were giving out the meals were like, stop at the next stop, like right down here, and you'll get free books from the library. And I mean, the people that did stop were really well received. But we had a lot of cars that just went past, and I'm like, you guys are the ones that need the books the most. You know what I mean? Like that's what. So I mean, I'm trying to figure out ways that I can not like be in their face with it, but like kind of just like kind of sneakily, like give their kids resources, I guess, because I feel like they're the ones that are getting skipped over because their parents aren't like accepting of it. You know what I mean? And I know we have a lot of Spanish speakers too. So I made a Spanish a Spanish paper log, and I had Spanish books. So like that wasn't, it wasn't only that either. So I'm not sure what else I could do if anybody has any ideas. I know it's kind of tough.
Well, you had like a table or something? Did you have a Spanish and English sort of sign on your table?
No, we didn't even have a table. Like all we did was we brought just kind of like basket. Like I made 2 like large baskets of books, and then as the parents drove through, they would just stop to get a meal, and then they would stop to talk to us at the library. And I know enough Spanish that I could like get my point across to the people that weren't bilingual about which books, did they need Spanish speaking books or did they need English books? So I mean, but I was surprised at the people that just drove around. It kind of was disheartening.
Jenny, were you going to say something?
Yeah. I don't know how they're getting the meals. Are they coming in a box, or is it just in a little sack? Or because I wonder if you can just put the things in with the food, and then they end up just taking the log home because they grabbed the bag of food.
That's a good point. Yeah, I could talk to the director about that. I'm not sure. Like it basically comes in like a grocery bag, and they're packed by the nutrition department at the school. So I guess I would talk to like the principal and the director about that. So yeah, that's a good point. I'm gonna write that down.
You could try. Yeah.
Yeah, really, it's worth trying.
Yeah.
Well,
because they have a bus for this. I'm sorry.
No, go ahead, Stacey.
They have a bus for this summer. Like they're going to discontinue them at the schools, but they're going to have a bus that actually goes to different neighborhoods so that like the kids without transportation can still get the food resources. So I told her that I would go and, like maybe like, once or twice a month go and then just take like little STEM bags or like activity bags that I would hand out there too. So
I guess the thing that comes to my mind is we see this need of people, right? But they don't necessarily see it as a need, or it might not be a need, right? So I think we have to think about that is like, yes, books, libraries, all of that, but that might not be what they need the most or think they need the most. So that also might be why. It's just that, you know, that's not something that's going to resonate. So in community partnerships, you actually might find out, you know what they really need is this thing, and we can provide that. So I know that the reading is important, but I also think like there are maybe like food is a necessity, right? That's something they have to survive. But there might be other things that aren't book related that we could help, that would help to build the relationship, and then you could get to the books. Does that work? Leslie, what are you thinking? Are you thinking
Well,
something?
I'm thinking, we're very much a walking community, so we just get to chat with families and parents in the course of life.
Yeah.
And just about universally, people are just so glad that school ended this past Friday. And yeah, they maybe are just feeling no books right now. I need a break, just chalk on the sidewalks and so
No learning. Yeah. You know what I mean? Like, I can understand that. Yeah.
Learning, maybe some swimming, walking, just some serious R&R, because they're burned. They're just wiped. And, I didn't have to teach my kids for the last 4 months. So I sympathize. I really do. And the kids are just like,
Right. So what is that need? And that's a really important question. And then figuring out the way to do it, which is not necessarily what we normally provide. Yeah. Allison?
What?
You're pondering.
No,
so,
I was just not summer reading.
Okay. Fair enough. Yes. All right. Anything else? We have about 3 minutes. Thank you for bringing that up, Stacy. It's good to think of that kind of thing.
I'm sorry it was so late, but thank you.
Yeah, no, you had stuff. We totally get it.
Yeah, it was a very creative idea.
Yeah, exactly.
Well, and I think it's also, even with this project, we've learned through time, it's not necessarily quantity, but the fact that maybe that book or that log got to 1 or 2 kids.
Yeah, good point.
Means a lot.
Good point.
Maybe that meant the world to that kid because he doesn't have any, or she doesn't have any books at home. So,
Yeah, that's like just just our really big struggle as a whole has been the virtual aspect of, I mean, we live in such a small community and a lot of the kids don't have that access. So it's just really hard, you know what I mean? Just getting anybody involved, I call it a win. Like, we had one person on pause that wasn't my daughter this week, and like for the therapy dogs, and I was like, yes, so.
Well, and we're finding even when people have access, they don't want to do any more virtual things. They're done. Right. They're like, we're not Zooming anymore. We're done with the virtual learning. We're done with the virtual connecting. We're done with it.
I told you can't kill them.
Because the schools, like, it was rough. Like, being a parent of kids in elementary school, I can only imagine like the middle and the high school, because just jumping from platform to platform and making sure they do all their work every day was a real struggle while working full time. And I can only imagine the parents that maybe don't read above a 3rd grade level or something like that, trying to help their children, or that don't speak English. I mean, I can only imagine. So,
yeah. All right, all. Thank you for being here and for thinking big thoughts. I will post tomorrow and the assignment as well. And then let's keep talking about how everyone is doing. Have a good rest of your week. And since we did talk about July 4th, which is 2 weeks away, I guess. It's 2 weeks away. Happy July 4th. It's crazy. Bye, everybody.